Hello everyone, my name is Isna and my study number is 2024-110-2048. And today I will present on the TED Talk The Listening Bias by Tony Salvador, which I across from TED.com. And this talk explores how bias affect the way we listen to others. In this talk, Tony Salvador, an experimental psychologist and researcher, explains that people often do not truly listen to what others are saying, and instead we tend to hear only what we want to hear, a phenomenon called listening bias. Salvador emphasizes the importance of moving beyond this bias in order to understand others more accurately and communicate more effectively. Salvador describes listening bias as the tendency to hear selectively, paying attention only to ideas that confirm our existing thoughts, expectations, or assumptions. This means we can miss important parts of what others say because our minds filter for information. People's minds are shaped by their beliefs, experiences, and assumptions. These internal filters influence how we interpret messages, which often leads to misunderstanding or incomplete comprehension of what the speaker actually said. When we listen selectively, we can fail to understand others accurately, especially if the speaker's ideas challenge our perceptions. This can lead to poor communication, conflict, and misinterpretation in both everyday conversation and larger decisions. Salvador encouraged people to deliberately expand their listening awareness, to be open to hearing the full message, especially ideas that do not immediately align with their own views. The goal isn't necessarily to agree, but to understand more deeply. There are two key terms. First is listening bias, hearing only what fits our expectations or beliefs rather than the full message being communicated. And two, selective listening, a relative concept where listeners focus on parts of the speaker's message that suit them and ignore the rest. Here's the problem. People assume they are listening carefully, but their biases distort what they actually hear, leading to misunderstandings and incomplete communication. And for the solution suggested is, first, be aware of your internal filters when you listen, and two, practice active and open listening, especially with ideas you disagree with. Tony Salvador's attitude in the talk is curious, reflective, and persuasive. He speaks from the perspective of a researcher and encourages listeners to be thoughtful rather than defensive about their listening habits. His tone is unexpected yet encouraging, signaling that listening better is a skill we can develop. Here's the summary. In this TED Talk, Tony Salvador explains that people often hear only what they expect or want to hear. Because of internal biases, this listening bias distorts communication and prevents us from truly understanding others. These biases come from past experiences, beliefs, and assumptions that unconsciously filter what we pay attention to. Salvador highlights that truly understanding what others say requires being aware of these biases and intentionally trying to listen openly. He suggests that moving beyond selective listening can improve communication and empathy. Ultimately, being mindful of listening bias helps us engage more honestly and accurately with others. In conclusion, the main message of this talk is that we often truly listen because our minds filter what we want to hear, and this can distort understanding and communication. Salvador invites the audience to become more aware of these biases and to strive to open, attentive listening. For the reflection is I believe this talk is valuable because it reminds us that listening is not just hearing words, it's an active process that requires awareness and openness. By listening more deeply, we can improve relationship and understanding in both personal and professional settings. That's all for me that I'm listening, The Listening Bias by Tommy Salvador. Thanks for watching.